Hello, and in this video talking about simultaneous equations, we're following on from a part 1 episode we had, which finished up like this. And in part 1 we had these equations really nicely laid out where the A's were lined up and the B's were lined up and they equaled the numbers lined up. So we could do this method of elimination. If the signs are the same, subtract in order to cancel the 3 A's because they're the same, or the 17 Y's because they're the same. They'll cancel and we can solve for the other letter. The problem with those questions, not a problem, the advantage of those questions is they have numbers that are the same. The A's are the same, the Y's are the same. But that's not always going to be the case. And in fact, here we've got questions where they're not the same. Now, it's only one extra layer of thought that goes on to this, because if they were the same, we already know how to solve it, just like we did here. The fact that they are not the same means we need to make them the same, and then we can do the same method we already did. So you have to look through, and sometimes, like a question like this, you can be like, ooh, look, if only these 2 A's were double the size, they would match up. So I can do that. I can multiply up the whole thing. I can times the whole equation by 2. As long as I change everything by 2, then I'm okay. So 2A times 2 is 4A. The 7b times 2 is the 14, and the one everyone forgets is you've got to do the number at the end as well. 2 times minus 15 is minus 30. And now they're the same, they're both 4a, we can do the same method we did last time. Okay, these are both plus, so don't look at these belong to the b's. Oops, missed off a b there. These belong to the b's, so none of that, it's these ones in front. Yes, for the a's, it's the signs in front. They're both the same, so we're going to subtract. So subtract, 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 and then we're going to work it through. 4a take 4a is nothing, that's why we did it, to get rid of it. Minus 5b minus another 14b is minus 19b's. Okay, and this equals 27 minus minus 30. Okay, well that's minus is adding, so that's 57. Okay, minus 19b equals 57, then 57 divided by minus 19 is going to tell us that b is minus 3. And just like we did on previous questions on the last video, we can substitute that in and we can say, okay, if 2a plus, well, 7 times minus 3 is actually minus, isn't it? So minus 21b equal, oh no, not 21b, just 21, because I've done the b by putting in the minus 3. 7 times minus 3 is minus 21. So 2a minus 21 equals minus 15. Add the 21 to both sides. 2a equals 6, so a equals positive 3. And there's your two answers. B is minus 3 and a is positive 3. Once you've scaled that one up, hopefully you can see it's exactly the same thing as we did in part 1. We just had to do that extra step to get it to be the form that we could have dealt with in part 1. Now the second example here is exactly the same, but 5 won't easily turn into 7, and 3 won't easily turn into 4. So in this case, we're going to have to change both. And we could change the p's to both to be 35, but I'm going to make the q's into 12. So this bottom one's got to times by 4, that'll make that 3 into 12. And this has got to be times by 3 to make that 4 into 12. And we'll write both of them out. 3 7s are 21p plus 12q equals 90. You've got to remember to do the number at the end. 4 times 5 is 20p minus 12q, and 4 times 39, if I wasn't so tired, I would do that in my head, but 156. Nothing to be ashamed of doing a quick bit of numeracy, better than making a mistake doing the numeracy on the calculator if that's what your brain can cope with at that moment. No judgment. Okay, well let's have a look. If the signs are the same, we subtract, but look here, the 12s actually have the opposite signs. So we're going to add everything together to cancel those. So we get 41p equals, that cancels, that was the whole point. And then we add that up, 246. And then we're going to divide in order to work out what p is. and it should go in, I think, 6 times, but let's not make mistakes by when we could just quickly calculate it and be sure. So type that in as a divide, and yes, it is 6. And then remember, we can substitute that back in. Now, don't substitute it into your grotty things that you'd made bigger numbers. Put it into one of the originals. Far more sensible. 42 plus 4q equals 30. So 4q is minus 12. So q is minus 3. Okay, and there's our 2 answers. Really important that you remember this is not suddenly a new method. It's the same method from here downwards. It's just that you've got to turn what you originally were given into equations where there's something to cancel. It doesn't matter if you do that for the p's or the q's. It doesn't matter which one you make cancelable, if that's even a word, as long as whatever you make cancel, you look at the signs and you act accordingly. And of course, you could get, if you have the right calculator that has a setting like this, so it's menu A, simultaneous equations, 2 unknowns, we can type it in to check. 2 equals 7 equals minus 15 equals 4 minus 5 and 27, and it reckons that they say x and y, but for us that's A is 3, B minus 3, boom. Okay, and you could do the same for the other one. I'm not going to because the video is long enough as it is, but if you have this calculator, good practice to just check my working, and if I've made a mistake, then you can let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much. Ta-ra for now.